Hi, everyone, and thank you for yet again joining us at a Haskayne Consulting Club alumni interview. This is actually our second interview of our second series, which is defined as Specializations and Technicals. And we're really hoping that this series can help our students figure out what exact technical and special skills they need in the consulting world, where they can learn those, and how their degree can be applicable in the consulting world and with those specializations that they learn. And we are super excited to be joined here today with Celina. And we really want to thank her, and of course, all of our other alumni for taking the time to be with us. And as always, we're just going to start off with the first question. Who are you?
Perfect. So I'm Celina. I am a business analyst with Accenture. I have been part of the Accenture team since November 2019, and I'm part of their consulting development program. Since I've joined Accenture, I've been involved with two implementations at energy companies, one being a commodity trading implementation and the second one being a finance implementation. And my role specifically involves training and change management. My involvement with HCC is that I was actually the co-president a couple of years ago. So I was co-president with Jared, and I was actually part of the team that put together the idea of the first consulting night. I was part of two consulting nights, and that's one of HCC's recurring events, which is awesome. And then during my degree at U of C, I studied accounting. I did an 8-month internship at PwC, but decided then to do an internship at Accenture and found that my interests was better aligned with consulting. And consulting is just awesome and amazing. And so that's why I decided to return to Accenture full time.
Awesome. That's great to hear. And I know a lot of our students, they find that they go into something and they don't quite like it, and then they try something else and don't quite like that. And I find more often than not, that's how people end up landing on consulting, is it's kind of this mix of everything. And other than HCC, kind of just in the same area of who are you, could you tell us a little bit more about other extracurriculars you were involved in at Haskayne?
Yeah, for sure. I was involved with the Women in Business Club. I was their director of professional development. I was also the vice president of events for uThrive. I love planning events and still plan a ton of events at Accenture, but basically that was just a bunch of like social gathering events. Um, I was also part of the Scholars Academy for 4 years. So in the Scholars Academy, I did a bunch of mentorship. And in terms of like fun extracurriculars, I did a I did a an exchange program. And in my exchange program, I would say like this was definitely the highlight of my degree. I spent my last semester in Madrid, where I lived in a small suburban city and nobody spoke English at all. And I like barely spoke Spanish. I was just starting to learn. But by the end of it, I was able to have like a good basic conversation in Spanish with someone. And then during my exchange and in the months before I signed full time at Accenture, I managed to travel to 20 countries in 11 months. So that was really fun. And I know with COVID, it kind of sucks. Like you can't really travel much to other countries. But if you ever get the opportunity after COVID to travel to another city or country, I would definitely recommend that it is a crucial part of university. And then another extracurricular that I did that was super fun was I joined the Explore program, which is like a program where you go to Montreal or anywhere around Canada for about a month, and the government kind of funds you to learn French. So that was really culturally immersive and enjoyable, and I met a lot of people. And I also did, as I mentioned previously, the co-op program, and through the co-op program did two internships.
Nice. I always hear good things about Exchange. I have yet to hear someone badmouth it. So that's just even more reassurance for me and hopefully anyone else who watches it that, it really is a great experience. And kind of moving into less detail about your extracurriculars and a little bit more detail about your degree itself. Could you tell us a little bit about the core points of your degree, maybe some of your least and most favorite classes and things like that?
Yeah, that sounds good. In terms of my degree, I studied accounting. And so I did like all of the CPA prerequisites, and I did my internship at PwC. And I found that accounting was it was actually like interesting to me. I I really enjoyed the classes, and the technicality of accounting. However, I found that it didn't really align with my passions, and I wanted to focus on something that was a little bit more diversified, which is why I went into consulting. So I guess the key takeaway from that is that even if you're studying something right now, it might not necessarily be what you do for work in the future. And I've found that like most people that I've encountered in industry never actually like practice or do what they originally studied. And so if you are interested in consulting right now, you know that you can come from a variety of different backgrounds and that the major that you have doesn't necessarily dictate like what you can and can't do. You really have to think about the transferable skills in terms of like your classes and the extracurricular that you're doing and how these skills could also apply to the job that you're looking for.
For sure. Yeah, I think that's more great advice. I know we have the few ambassadors on our team from STEM and engineering and arts and MBA, of course. And I know specifically around arts, there's always kind of been this stigma that, oh, you're in arts, you can't join consulting. But I really do think, based on the work we've done even this year, that that's less and less true. So hopefully, to all the arts students and non-business students out there that hear you say that, they can be a little bit more encouraged, hopefully, to maybe take that as a serious career path. And
Yeah, absolutely. Like regarding your comment about arts, I'm literally standing up an organization within Accenture called the Alberta Center of Design. And like our entire mandate is about human-centered design, which is a super important part of consulting, like designing for your end user. And so having an artistic background actually adds such a different perspective and definitely is a transferable skill.
yeah, no, that's great to hear. Again, I think that'll be super reassuring just because, exactly like you said, there is kind of that vibe, for lack of a better word, around arts that they maybe can't do consulting. But yeah, anyway, just a little bit more on your degree, maybe. You sort of touched on your key points, like that it doesn't relate a whole lot to consulting. Is there anything within your degree that really helped you on a day-to-day basis? Maybe have you found that, you know, a certain class or like learning a basic skill in a class like MGST or entrepreneurship or BTMA or something? What I'm trying to say is, have you found more classes somewhat more transferable than others, maybe?
Yeah, for sure. I would say that I really enjoyed entrepreneurship. I think it was one of the first times wherein I felt like I was in a real world scenario, because I was working with a team to develop an idea. I had to do a lot of like primary and secondary research in order to develop the idea, and that's something that we're doing constantly in consulting. Um, we then went through like the ideation phase, and then you talk a lot about rapid prototyping and iterating. These two are concepts that you use all the time in consulting. You never like take a deliverable from 0% to 100% and just like call it a day. You're always working with your team and working with your client to redo the idea and really refine it. And entrepreneurship was actually a gateway for me to join this program. Um, And this program was with Innovate Calgary, wherein I actually received funding to co-found a business called Aeroseat. And although we didn't take it to full fruition, it was a really great learning experience wherein I networked with a bunch of people, met a bunch of entrepreneurs, and really learned about how to establish a business. So entrepreneurship had a big impact on my degree. As well, I would say that MGST is a really good introduction to like basic Excel. I use Excel almost every day at my work, and what they teach you in MGST, you can always like take away and build more of. And then I think since I have left university, they've come up with a lot more like BTMA coding classes, which are awesome, and I wish I had the chance to experience those classes.
Yeah, for sure. I can definitely relate on the entrepreneurship side. I just finished that course last semester, and there's definitely a few key points that make you really have to stress your critical thinking and team working. And just like you said, a lot of those transferable skills. And again, kind of moving away from that academic side, could you maybe touch a little bit more on some of those same specific skills that you picked up, but maybe in some of your extracurriculars? For example, did you do a case comp that you had to learn something that was a technical skill that you still use today? Or yeah, could you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say like one of the extracurriculars that I learned the most in, if not even more than my classes, were case competitions. So I started off with just some like beginner friendly case competitions, for example, with CCAL or within my classes. And then I also became involved in ICBC with the accounting team. I think case competitions are a really, really great way to learn because they give you real life scenarios and problems with companies that simulate actual, like, very challenging situations that companies could be in. And you have to apply a number of different skills like problem solving, research, working with your team. Another important one is how do you actually use problem solving and structured thinking in order to develop your approach to having a solution. So the case competitions, they don't only care about your final solution, it's also about the process that it took to get there and how you take your solution and justify that your solution is a strong one and that it's founded on research and data. Another extracurricular that I was involved in is Accenture CCP, as well as managing projects through HCC. And even if you don't get to manage a project through HCC or Accenture CCP, I think that even being part of one of these projects in university is such a huge value add. Most of the time, you're working with an actual client, and that teaches you skills like client relationship management. It teaches you how to work with a team. And basically, these two experiences, case competitions and projects, are the two things that I think could get you super close to real life consulting scenarios.
That's good to hear. Yeah, I always like it when people on these calls promote specific HCC things, especially the projects. That's, thumbs up to that for sure. Yeah, I was on an HCC project last semester or last year, sorry. And I found the exact same thing. It was a great experience. You get to do a lot of that client facing, exactly like you said. So again, I think everything you said holds true from what I've experienced. And, sort of just a final, like one of the final questions we sort of like to ask too is there anything at school or maybe even in your extracurriculars, like in the projects or like in case competitions, that you wish you had learned maybe?
I would say that personally, like, definitely would have wanted to learn more coding, Python, SQL, Power BI, VBA, more advanced Excel. as well as more technology focused areas like cloud, AI, analytics, blockchain. However, these are all things that my company provides really, really good training on. And I think that if you joined any company in your job, they would also provide you with training and resources. I also wish that I did a better job of keeping up with recent news. Sometimes I wouldn't read the news every day, or more specifically, I'd like to have been more aware of business news every single day. But the thing about these skills is that it doesn't stop in school, it doesn't stop in work. You can always continue to learn, and it's really up to you to take ownership of your learning and your upskilling. And then my other piece of advice about this is that think about where you would like to be. So whether that's consulting, whether that's technology implementation, or even if you're not in consulting, and then think about what skills those people have in their jobs and work backwards. So if I want to be an accountant, what skills do I need? If I want to be a consultant, what skills do I need? And then start working that way.
Awesome. Yeah, I've never thought about it that way actually. That when you say it though, that seems like the logical way to think about it, kind of build it out backwards. No, for sure. That's
Yeah.
again, great advice. So with that, what experiences best prepared you with the skills you need for your role and why? That's kind of our final question today. And you answered a bit of that, but do you have any final thoughts on that last question there?
Yeah, for sure. I think overall, even though I did mention a lot of technical skills like AI, analytics, Python, I think the most important thing that will help you succeed in the real world is soft skills. One being flexibility. So I had to learn this through my job and kind of joining a project and being thrown in the water. Like in my first project, they told me, okay, your role is to create training material for the software to train the client. And I had never used the software in my life. And within a matter of like a month or so, I read a bunch of pre-existing content and I worked with people from the vendor side, and I became one of the subject matter experts in this software. I became one of the people that the client would go to and ask for help when they were experiencing problems with the software, and I actually trained the client on the software. So I think like flexibility, everything can be learned. You just have to be like totally open-minded about the opportunities out there. And then also be comfortable with ambiguity and be comfortable if you don't know something and be willing to ask for help. The next thing that really helped me learn a lot of skills was just networking. I think networking, even in school and also when you have a job, is super important and will always be a lifelong skill. And lastly, I think leadership skills are also very important and will be applicable to you in school and then also in your job. So I think skills like managing a team, managing a scope of work, and one of my Gallup strengths is actually being an activator. So an activator is good at taking an idea and executing it in real life. So, with leadership skills like taking a vision and mobilizing people to turn it into a reality, I think that that's a really powerful skill.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think those are three pretty great, areas that hopefully everyone can kind of improve on and work on, both like you said, at school and hopefully when they graduate. I think when people graduate, there's this expectation that, learning sort of stops and whatnot, and you stop networking. But I think today you've really stressed that that's anything but the case. Yeah, so that's great to hear. And thanks so much for again being willing to do this with us today and taking the time. And again, I really hope that a lot of people will see lots of videos and this one especially. So thanks again.
No worries. Thank you.